Welcome to the webinar for the Supply Chain Capacity Program. We'll be starting shortly, but we'll cover off some housekeeping first. This session will run as an information sharing, initially with a Q&A opportunity. Please submit your questions through as you think of them, and they can be responded to accordingly. If you have further questions or something specific in nature to your project or activity, they can be emailed through instead, or a discussion time can be arranged. These contact details will be visible when we get to the Q&A section of today's presentation. Cameras and microphones have been turned off. Please ensure that your speakers are working. Welcome to the Supply Chain Capacity Program webinar. My name is Bronwyn Miller and I'm the Program Manager for the Supply Chain Capacity Program that supports the RBDC with these grants. I will be ably assisted today by Senior Project Officer Jess Austin and the technical team. I start off by wishing to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are all meeting on today. For me, that is the Whadjuk Noongar people of the Noongar Nation. We pay our respect to elders past, present and emerging. Today, we're going to cover 4 things. Why? What objectives are trying to be met through this grant program? These are things to keep in mind and align your application to, making it more competitive. Who is this grant program for? What is on offer? This round has 2 distinct funding pots for different purposes and we'll cover these. We won't be covering specifics within the application forms themselves or the Smarty Grants platform used to access these. And the how. We'll take you through the mechanics of applying, making sure you are eligible, the minimum requirements for viability to progress through to assessment, and tips to consider when applying. The export of live sheep by sea from Australia will be prohibited by law from the 1st of May 2028. The Australian Government has committed $139.7 million in transition assistance to support individuals, businesses and communities to confidently plan and adapt to phasing out of the trade. There are a range of assistance packages available with the Supply Chain Capacity Program open now. It includes $40 million to increase the capacity, efficiency and productivity of the sheep supply chain in WA. This program is administered by the Rural Business Development Corporation by the State of WA and delivered by DPIRD and is part of the Commonwealth Funding Program. There's $40 million available on 2 competitive grant rounds of $20 million each. Round 1 is now open and round 2 will be opening in early 2026. Round 1 consists of 2 streams. Producers are eligible for funding from $50,000 up to $2 million for on-farm finishing, and processors can apply from $50,000 up to $5 million to enhance processing supply chain capacity, efficiency and productivity. So these capital works is an action grant to put in place what you're wanting to do for your business or farm. As mentioned, there are the 2 streams covering from $50,000 up to $5 million. There are 2 rounds, so you can apply in either round. Round 1, the focus is on on-farm producers and small-scale abattoirs being encouraged to apply. These applications close on the 22nd of October and notification of outcome is expected in late January. There is a requirement of a minimum cash contribution of 50%, meaning that the total project value must be $100,000 and above. Funding is for capital projects in plant and equipment, supporting infrastructure to expand, grow or diversify operations. All projects must be completed by the end of June 2028, meaning they should be considered ready to progress now, understanding that approvals and works may take some time to come through. To be eligible, it is open to established businesses with more than 2 years of trading history. It is for investing in projects, considering how it impacts your business and the industry. For those over $500,000, we would expect this to include a detailed feasibility to have been undertaken and evidence provided of what it is that you're wanting to do and why. You'd need to demonstrate you have financial resources to match every dollar of grant funding with at least $1 of cash per dollar of grant and to deliver the project. This will be something that is confirmed and checked throughout the assessment process. The investment is in new facilities or capabilities, new technology or modernisation, and for projects that will result in flattening out of spikes, supporting business growth, fostering innovation, and potentially creating jobs. Projects should encourage investment in moderating the impacts of the phase out. Investments that enable expansion or diversification of business operations that build continuity of supply or primary production in WA, or for businesses to relocate their operations or expand their existing operations in WA. There's a list there of the types of businesses that would be eligible. As we said, to be eligible, you must be operating or intending to operate within WA. Be a private sector business. This includes incorporated trustees, a public company, grower cooperative, a conglomerate, formal or informal partnership, or similar organisations having an ABN and registered for GST in Australia. You must have an account with an Australian financial institution and be authorised to enter into a legally binding agreement with the WA government. Should have been in operation for a minimum of 2 years or a similar established track record or demonstrated record of industry operation. Need to be financially viable with the intention to continue operating into the foreseeable future where there are no plans, events or circumstances known to you which would result in your business ceasing to trade. Not be under any formal compliance or legal actions and intend to operate or locate your project in regional and or metropolitan WA. You must have the financial capacity to fund the minimum co-contribution and intend on delivering your project by the 30th of June 2028. So all projects must commence within 6 months of executing a grant agreement, which will include agreed milestones and project deliverables with the state. Groups that aren't eligible include Commonwealth, state, regional or local government agencies or bodies, businesses owned, co-owned or with representatives on their boards that are employees of DPIRD or RBDC board directors, publicly funded research institutions, industry associations, or foreign business entities operating overseas or do not possess business registration in Australia. So as per the guidelines, eligible activities can be used for new or bringing forward planned capital projects in existing or proposed sheep producing and supply chain businesses. We've included a list here that are not limited to the above. Ineligible costs are also included, and these can relate to costs incurred prior to the project commencement date. For this, we would suggest that this is anything prior to February 2026. Business as usual expenses, costs incurred to prepare grant applications or regulatory requirements, travel expenses, purchase of land, non-infrastructure items or non-livestock related infrastructure, feasibility studies, consultancy, project management fees, IP, repair or connection of infrastructure or major equipment, research and development, just to name a few. For further information, you can consult the guidelines. We realise that on-farm finishing, which was listed above, is quite a broad term and may cover such items related to general flock management, confinement feeding, feedlots, and the list goes on. Based on interest today, we've provided some examples of what sort of items may be considered. What one farm or business applies for will be different from another, as long as it comes back to demonstrating value for money and how it will improve the capacity, productivity, or efficiency of its operations. This is by no means exhaustive. It could include things like livestock monitoring devices, such as cameras and sensors in troughs or tanks. Feeding, such as sheep feeders with scales, eagle eye, silos, feed storage, troughs, mixers and feed trailers. could have items related to pasture renovation, such as investing in new forage types or equipment for increasing pasture establishment, such as seeder, spreaders, tractors, and rams. Genetic testing through genomic profiling of flock for benchmarking genetic growth or carcass performance. Livestock recording and management, such as EIDs, the wide range of sheep handlers that are available, automatic drafters, weigh crates, EID management tech, such as readers, wands, panel readers, and then data management software. Improved yards for protection, rotation, and sizing, or farm connectivity. For processors, some examples of items that could be included are technological advancements such as automated systems, hooks, objective carcass measurement systems, items related to packaging, hygiene, sanitation, waste management, cold storage, or heavy vehicle access. The list is almost limitless. For the application itself, it can be broken down into two simple areas. The pitch of what you're wanting to do once you've confirmed that you're eligible. It's not an overly emotive promise of solving all the world's problems, but a summary of who you are, what your current operations are, what you want to do, and what the benefits are. It's when you have the opportunity to pitch your idea and allude to what you've done to date to be investment ready. The application then requires evidence and details. So the establishment of timeframes, budgeting and approvals required allows you to be confident in what all the inputs required are, as well as demonstrate to the independent panel a high level of buy-in to the project and project management. This is what an approved grant will be based on to develop an agreement. It's not about how well written the grant is, but an exercise to demonstrate that you have shown you've considered the basic premise of who's involved, what you want to do, when each of the components will start, progress, and end, why you want to do it, and how it will occur, including how you will deliver it and how you determine these actions and items are what is best for your business, industry, and what the impact will be. From our experience, applicants who've spent the necessary time fully scoping out their project, including specific timeframes that have been confirmed or qualified, a detailed up-to-date budget using current quotes, and consideration of a project plan with sufficient timeframes, are normally better placed to be able to progress their project if successful in the grant. Changes to projects may not be acceptable after award and could risk grant funding being able to be dispersed. The assessment criteria is outlined here with further information in the guidelines on page 9. Don't be afraid to explain your experience in these types of projects, the professionals you are using, or examples of where others have done something similar to highlight and evidence your case, particularly the commercial viability of your idea and sustainability of operations post-award. Will this be a white elephant or fall over after the cash has dried up? We'd like to draw attention particularly to a couple of components that we will outline in the next few slides. Financials. So detail the project items to be funded through requested grant funding and cash contribution. If you can only include the items in this project, we realise that you might have a larger scale of works, but these aren't necessarily included in this budget. Such things as contingency wouldn't be included in your grant budget. Anything that you have included needs to be backed up by quotes, and we would encourage you to confirm within the guidelines if your items or activities are eligible or going to be ineligible for funding. You can always contact the project team to confirm. Including the quotes justifies the funding request. Quite often these quotes will include additional items such as, the delivery timeframes and when funding is due to be paid on each of those items. You can use one quote for multiple items within the project budget. You can add additional lines if required. And just to confirm as well that government funding you may have received cannot be counted as part of your co-contribution. Here we've included some information around quotes. As before, we've mentioned that each line item or multiple items needs to be covered off with a quote. The application form will automatically tally the amounts entered. The quotes themselves need to meet standard ATO requirements, such as be provided on a company letterhead with an ABN, identify the name and contact details for who the work is, which should be the applicant, where possible, be compiled with appropriate headings to outline key elements and tasks, include the proposed expenditure with timeframes of when the payment, delivery and installation timeframe is likely, include line item for each service or cost incurred by the provider, and any units that are being quoted, number of units and cost per unit. Quotes cannot be for work already undertaken. Co-contribution is the other component of the table. You need to demonstrate how the project will be paid for. We understand that the budget being asked for is probably only part of your wider plans. The other components you may have around consultancy services, non-capital components, and contingency, as mentioned, are not captured in this grant budget. It is purely the components that are eligible and what you're proposing the grant and the applicant to be paying for. It's a demonstration of where the money is coming from. For example, are you taking out a loan, a line of credit, or using cash reserves? If you are successful in funding, you will need to provide a letter of surety once the grant is executed, confirming this. Another large component of your project is demonstrating project delivery and feasibility. Given the grant is around capital works, these can include specific advice on regulatory and work approvals, for example. Applicants will need to demonstrate specific advice from the appropriate departments or agencies on what is required to action the project, including the cost and timeframes. This may include some of the following, such as local governments, environmental approvals through the Department of Water and Environment Regulation, or health approvals, such as through the Department of Health. It's often one of the longer steps in having projects progress, and it's strongly encouraged that early consideration of works have been commenced so you can meet the project due date of the end of June 2028. Part of the application process is demonstrating you've engaged with these relevant regulatory authorities on what approvals are required. There is, however, resources and support available from not only your industry associations and regulators, but from DPIRD. DPIRD offers resources and support to all primary producers. These may include within sheep management, and we would suggest firstly going to the website. There are significant resources provided by our livestock officers and meat scientists. They'll be able to provide advice on any number of queries, and specific inquiries can be directed through to the appropriate team member, also on our website, and via email. We also have the agribusiness development team. So DPIRD's agribusiness development team provide regulatory and technical support with early engagement recommended to support your effective planning. Essentially, this team is a liaison between businesses and regulators that will be able to demystify the components of your project that may require regulatory consideration. We would strongly recommend that you contact them regarding your project. To support this program and the likely projects that will occur as businesses transition, they've also recently published a decision tree for helping to work out infrastructure requirements and a best practice fact sheet for sheep feedlots for those who are interested. So whilst your project may be eligible, there is a difference between being eligible and competitive. So to make your application stand out and be competitive, we would suggest that you ask questions. There's a lot of information online, such as the detailed guidelines, the website, the frequently asked questions, and the project team. We're here to help you. Do not assume. Put yourself in the assessor's shoes. They may never have heard of your project, so you need to sell it concisely and clearly so it gives the assessors a chance to understand the project and determine if the project offers value for money. Don't assume prior knowledge. It is independently assessed, so it does mean that the project team can answer specific questions, and if needed, we can review applications to see if you're on the right track before being submitted. This will be dependent on timing and workload the closer we get to the closing of the round. Take your time. Applications are hard work. Take the time and effort and don't leave it to the last minute. Ensure you've done all your checks and balances so you're not surprised when final requirements and costs come in. You want to avoid your application reading as rushed or lacking information. Take note of mandatory questions. Your grant application may not submit or even be considered if these are missing. Go back to the assessment criteria and its weighting. In here, we've referred to that as additionality. So what difference will government money make? What is the benefit to the business or industry for the state funding your project? Something like a tractor, for example, may be eligible, but may not be seen as competitive. So how is it different to business as usual? Will the activities prolong the operations of your business? Will it open up new markets, extend seasons, make a local, regional or state impact? Will it include other partners or stakeholders? You could add in letters of support if you have evidence of forward contracts or likely partnerships that may eventuate because of your project. Applications requesting over $500,000 in funding are expected to provide further justification related to their investment. Think of this as what you would go to your bank manager with. Where is the business plan? Have you given consideration of your thinking into the future? How will you continue to pay and service that funding? How you've considered the timing or staggering of your project, and the professionals you are using and the evidence you have for your project. Has this been done before? Do you have any evidence of numbers, etc.? And then finally, the financial viability. We will take steps to ensure that you are a going concern, and shortlisted applications will be subject to financial and risk reviews. So how to apply? All our applications are made online via the Smarty Grants platform. They will be assessed once the round closes, and the estimated time from application to award is expected in January 2026. We've also placed some links that will be accessible to you when we send through a copy of today's presentation, including our contact details. We'll now move to the Q&A section of today's presentation. Please use the Q&A function to ask your questions, or you can email us afterwards or contact us afterwards if you've got anything in particular.